Hey guys, Julian Lallo here and welcome to Editing for My Instagram, episode 1. So guys, I was just having a quick look through some old hard drives and in particular some images that I took in Tokyo last year and looking for an image to post tonight on my Instagram, and I thought why not quickly run you guys through how I edit my images for Instagram. What I'm going to do at the end of the edit is turn that edit into a preset, which I'm going to link for you guys to download for free in the description below. If you do use the preset on any of your images and post it, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see what you guys come up with and how it works on your images. Also, I'd love it if you hit me with a subscribe, and let's jump straight into this edit. Okay, so for tonight's post, the image I've selected is this one here from Yakitori Alley or Memory Lane in Tokyo that I took last year. So how I generally like to start is scroll down to lens corrections and enable profile corrections. I then come back up to the top and I start working my way through the crop and then the basic image corrections. So with the crop, we go to a 4:5, which is that classic Instagram crop. Just straightening up the image a little bit because I would like this line here in the middle of the image and the figure walking down the laneway to be straight. So just straightening up a little bit there. Okay. And bring that in a little. Okay, perfect. So here now I'm going to just go through these basic corrections. So starting with the white balance of the image. So just wanting to cool it down a little bit and slightly take some of the magenta out of it. So slide that towards green. Lifting up the exposure a little bit. And now the contrast. So what I often do is slide to the two extremes of a slider, just so it gives me an idea of whether I want to go negative or positive with it, and gives me an idea of how far. I want to bring in some of the detail back into these lanterns and some of the neons. So I'm going to drop the highlights a little bit, just to bring those details back in where they're blown out, and with the shadows, I'm going to increase the shadows a little bit, actually quite a bit. I might bring that up to about 40, just to bring some of the detail back into the image because it is quite dark. The whites, I think the whites are pretty good as shot, and just drop the blacks just a little bit just to give it a bit more mood. Texture, clarity, dehaze. Generally don't play with the texture too much for a lot of my Instagram images, but clarity in this one, yeah, I think we're going to increase the clarity to about 38 on this one. Dehaze, we'll leave it as it is. Vibrance, I often lift up the vibrance a little bit in quite a few of my images. I don't generally play with the saturation. What I'll do is I'll go into the individual colors, and that's where I adjust saturation rather than adjusting the saturation of the image as a whole. So what I do is I'll lift the vibrance up. It looks pretty good. Somewhere around here, somewhere around 20, and now we'll jump into the tone curve. I still would like to bring out a little bit more detail in the blacks and in the shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this part of the tone curve here and lift it up just slightly, and that's bringing some nice detail back in. With the start of the curve, pretty popular on Instagram to give the image a bit of a fade, show a bit more grid or show a bit more mood in the image. I don't go too hard with these, so I'm just going to lift that up just slightly, just to give the image a little bit more mood overall. So far with the basic corrections and tone curve, this is where we're at. Here's the before and after so far. Okay, I want to make these red lanterns and some of the leaves pop a little more, so I'm going to jump into the reds and oranges and play with those. So just increasing the saturation on the reds a little bit, and I might increase the luminance also. You can see here by increasing the luminance, it's increasing the highlights a little bit and giving those lanterns a bit of a shine. doing the same with the oranges, just a little bit. It's playing with those leaves. The rest of the colors in the image, there's nothing that I particularly see that I want to edit. Where I'm going to jump into now is the split toning. So with the split toning, I'm going to leave the highlights as they are, but what I want to do is add some blue tones into the shadows. So we'll click here and select somewhere around here. Select a color and a shade of blue aqua that we want to add into those shadows, and I think it's probably somewhere around there, but a little bit too far for the way I like to edit. So I'm just going to drag the saturation back a little bit to around 20, and that's pretty good. So there's, we'll just close that, and there's the before and after so far. Going down, we'll leave the sharpening as it is. I did shoot this image at ISO of 1000, so I'm going to add a little bit of noise reduction into that. Let's say 20. Scrolling down and add some vignetting. With vignetting, I added to it most of my images, but you to be able to see that I've added too much vignetting to it. So it's very subtle. So here I've just dropped it to -14, and that's pretty good. There are all the basic corrections done, and the image is now pretty much where I like it. I just want to play with a couple of little things. I feel like there's quite a bit of detail that you can see here that isn't really necessary. So I just want to grab a graduated filter and bring it up from the corner. And here I'm just going to slightly decrease the exposure and drop the shadows just a fraction. The last two little things I'm going to do is I want to bring out just a little bit more detail in the figure walking down the laneway, and I really love this sign here. So with the brush tool, individually I'm just going to just brush over the figure here. You can see where I've brushed. It's pretty rough, but I'm just going to lift up the shadows a fraction just so I get a little bit more detail in him and the bag that he's wearing. So I'll hit enter on that to save those changes. And now this sign up here, I'm going to brush this sign out. And what I want to do is lift the highlights on that sign just to bring a bit of the white out of it. And maybe even give it a little bit of clarity. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm pretty happy with that image. I think that's ready to post. If anything, I may just quickly jump back up to the top and just see how it looks with the exposure dropped a little. Yeah, just going to drop the exposure just a fraction to give it a bit more mood. And there it is, before and after. You can see I've really cooled down the images, added some blues into the shadows, and just played around with the saturation of a few of the little details. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I was going to create a preset for you guys to download in the description. It's pretty simple. Once you've got all your settings in there, you just come over to the presets panel over here, press the plus button, create preset. Let's call it Tokyo Nights. And click create. I haven't added the brush or the graduated filters to the preset. I like to just keep my presets, the basic corrections to the image, and then adding graduated filters because I believe each image has its own need for graduated filters or brushes or radial filters. So I generally don't add those to my presets. So that's episode 1 of how I edit my photos for Instagram. If you enjoyed that, hit like, subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to tag me if you use my preset created from this image, because I'd love to see what you guys come up with and how it applies to your images. If there's any other questions you have, please let me know in the comments. And until the next episode, thank you for pressing play.